So we have the winner of Argentina versus Australia, and the win goes to the Wallabies. And I did not think I was going to be saying that at halftime. In all honesty, this game went through a roller coaster of emotions, really shifting hands a couple of times, not knowing where it was going to be going. One other thing about this game, it's maybe the longest game I've ever watched. There were so many stops and starts going on. It makes doing a review of a game a little bit tricky because there's basically a penalty every minute or so. So we'll try and go through it the best we can as we do in these match reports. Of course, we'll start off by going through the first half, and then afterwards we'll go through that bonkers second half where you just see the waterfall of scores and stuff going on. So many penalties to go through. So the first half, Argentina really looked like they were doing well. I did say in the preview video to this game, I thought, having seen how they played against Scotland, I really thought they would come into this with great momentum. They'd be launching their backs, doing these huge, speedy attacks, recycling the ball at great speed, just all-out aggression and going for it. And while we got to see a bit of it, it didn't really quite get back to that for me. So going into this first half then, we got to see a bit of that Argentinian passion right at the start with a huge hit coming on from Kramer going in the first minute of the game on the 5-metre defensive line, absolutely smashing through one of the Australian players, absolutely brilliant. And Argentina then went on to win the first line out through a penalty. So they were already looking good. I did say when they played Scotland that the line out was looking positive. Australia came in, jumped across in that line out. It was very secure from Argentina, allowed them that easy exit very early on. I thought that was going to be a setup just to see Argentina coast along. Now, I'm not going to lie, going through to the first 20 minutes or so is basically going to be penalties. But we'll start off by talking about the try. Coming in from Pablo Matera, there was a really nice speed of ball from the back of the ruck. Argentina pressing forwards from those little breakdowns. There was a lovely little inside ball, as you want to see. Carreras smashing through the line, managing to get a nice little offload out to Matera on the crash ball, bang, straight over for that, and Boffelli getting a nice early conversion. So Argentina going 7-0 up, only 6 minutes into the first half, really good for them, really looking like it's going to go well. Then we get into the world of penalties. Penalties came thick and fast in this game. This game stopped absolutely constantly. I believe there was 124 minutes between the starting whistle and the final whistle. It's a long time of watching rugby, especially when it's here at night time. Hopefully the video is light enough for you guys. So, first penalty coming in, Quade Cooper drawing it back to 7-3. This was Carreras offside, literally right in front of his own post. So, nice easy conversion for Cooper. Only 2 minutes later, Boffelli getting his own kick back. This was just Argentina tackling a player in the ruck, going beyond the ruck, took them back to 10-3. Then we go through a series of penalties. We have an Argentina penalty, Australia in at the side of the maul, followed by another Argentina penalty, that one being a successful kick as well. There was an Australian penalty for Argentina holding on. They went for the kick at the corner. Argentina now trying to just gain back some momentum. Australia go for the lineouts, look solid. In all honesty, the Australian lineout looked pretty solid for the majority of this game. They went for that driving maul. Took a while for the driving maul to really begin to have an impact. Later in the game, it makes a big impact. But this one directly leads to Jordan Petaya's try coming across. It was an uncontested lineout. It was something we saw getting a little bit consistent in that first half. Argentina are not actually trying to attempt the jump at all. When they were going for these defensive lineouts, not attempting to try and stop them in any way, just let them get on with it, trying to stop them more than anything. This ball was spread wide and Jordan Petaya just handed it by Quade Cooper and just walks it over the line. No one even got a tackle in. Very bizarre. Cooper did kick that one over, bringing them back to Argentina 13, Australia 10. Argentina had the final 10 minutes of the first half really pretty well wrapped up. They got a penalty in the sort of 25th minute, 26th minute for Australia, twisting the scrum. It allowed them to move up the field. They got another penalty a little bit later on, yet another scrum. The Argentinian scrum was not really winning in that first half, but it was certainly getting the cut of the grass from the referee, absolutely being able to side with them. There's a couple of Australian players dropping elbows to the ground or slipping up, not really going their way. We didn't really have a lot of scores right until the end of the game, where it became an opportunity for Argentina to maybe just extend that lead back out. They had the option to go for the 3 points literally in front of the post. They decided to turn this down. They were only 6 points ahead at this point. It's in the 36th minute, so it's pretty much going into half time now. They decide to kick for the corner, go for this driving maul. And it just doesn't work at all. The Australian driving maul certainly looked more on form today. They looked more in charge, and they just sacked that maul absolutely effortlessly and just allowed Australia to clean out. Argentina did manage to recover those 3 points just before the end of the first half, where Australia jumped across to the line out again, giving Buffelli a really long-range kick, to be fair, quite a difficult hit, but did manage to get it. So we went in at half-time, 19-10 to Argentina, and for all intents and purposes, I'd probably say Argentina deserved to be in the lead at the end of that first half. I really thought they were not necessarily looking in control, but they were just slightly winning the referee's decisions. They just looked like they had a bit more patience about themselves, just going through the motions. They were able to work the game to their advantage, per se. Saying that, from the Sky broadcast where we're watching it in the UK, which I have to say is maybe one of the worst broadcasts I've ever seen for a game of rugby. The commentators, I don't know who they were, sounded a bit bored to even be watching the game. The crowd and the game volume was at like 1 and the commentators were about 10, so you could barely hear the game, what was going on. We had no graphics for the game. I didn't know what minute it was. I didn't know what the score was for the first sort of 6 minutes. Very bizarre. But they came with some stats at halftime, which I don't even know if these are sort of right. But apparently, possession, 48 possession to 52 of Australia. I really felt like Argentina might have had more possession in that first half than Australia. I was surprised by that stat. Penalties conceded. Australia 10 at the halftime mark. Argentina 3, which is so nice to see. One of the big issues that we have with Argentina, so many penalties given away. So it was really obvious to see why the referee was siding with them in so many situations. Argentina just having the referee on their side in that first half. Lineouts won 7 of 8 for Argentina, 5 of 5 for Australia, and then territory 50-50, bang on the dot. Again, I thought that was a weird stat. I thought maybe that'd be a bit different, but I can't. You could take that with a grain of salt, because that Sky broadcast was a little bit suspicious. In terms of just general notes, I said there's a bit of a stop-start game this first half. No momentum. Penalties really taken away from the game a bit, just absolutely constant. No one was able to build through phases. I would be surprised if we saw 5 phases in a row in that first half from either team. I really don't think it got there. It was very, very slow. An awful lot of kicking going on. Argentina not contesting the lineouts very often. Very weird. I don't know what that's about. They obviously were very worried about that driving maul. They wanted to have people getting ready to stop it. They managed to stop a good amount in that first half, to be fair, but you can't just give people the ball in the line-out. It's never going to go too well for you. And then finally, the Argentinian defense, just not as intense as we saw them versus Scotland. Something that I was really looking forward to was seeing this Argentina team just flying off the line and smashing whoever had the ball, like we got to see in that Scotland tour. And it just didn't feel the same. They were sat back a little bit, or they were trying to do the splits defense, but only one of 4 defenders knew that was happening, and they would run out of the line. They leave themselves a bit dog-legged. I just really wanted them to sort of nail down, sort themselves out a little bit. On to the second half then, and Australia actually started out better in this second half. There were a couple of issues. They weren't quite getting themselves over the try line, but the attack was there. There were some big attacks from Australia. Argentina did manage just to hold out at one point until Nick White ran around the side of a ruck and just booted the ball out and got sent back by the referee, of course. We know Nick White. He likes a good little conversation with the referee every now and again. Australia went back on the attack, and there was an enormous jackal coming in. Tom Wright went on a big break. Absolutely looked like for certain there was going to be a try here. There was a great cover tackle. I don't know who made the cover tackle from Argentina. It just like a flash came across. James Slipper managed to pick up the ball, dive in for that try line, managed to get stopped, and Montoya managed to get over and get a brilliant try-saving jackal, literally saving Argentina right at the stop. But Australia didn't let that get the better of them. They went for a maul a little bit later on. They got another penalty from that. They were moving their way up the field, got for another maul, managing to try and get that attack, still not getting over the line, but the attack is building. They try and spread a little bit wide, and that's where Quade Cooper goes down with an injury. He's managed to sprain his ankle or twist his ankle. Not really sure, but it was certainly an ankle injury as soon as he went to ground. So we saw Reece Hodge coming on. So obviously that offers a slightly different dynamic. Not necessarily I would associate with a fly half. I would more associate with a fullback from what I've seen of him in Australia. But he does move into that fullback position. And to be fair, I think he did quite a good job in that fullback position. The kicking certainly didn't really take a massive knock after Quade Cooper went off. Argentina managed to turn it back around for the next 10 minutes. They got back on the attack. They got a little bit more offensive. They started generating a few more phases together, which was nice to see. In the 50th minute, we had the best attack, probably of the game from Argentina, to be honest. There was a nice couple of phase play they managed to get through. Eventually, there was a break from Kramer, managed to get through. There was a lovely little pass out to Carreras, who just looked like he had open room. Obviously, looked up to see where he was going to run, didn't focus on the catch, and the ball bobbles out of his hands and just sort of lets them down. Luckily, Argentina did manage to get themselves a try only 5 minutes later, coming in from Gonzalez. Argentina defending a massive attack from Australia for a good 2 or 3 minutes, really managed to just suck in those attackers, not conceding a lot of ground. The ball got kicked over, and there was a brilliant counter run by Malia from the fullback position. Got round, managed to get an offload to Pablo Matera, who must have run a good, I don't even know, 30 metres up the field, drew in the last defender, got the final pop pass off, offload to Gonzalez to score right in the corner. And again, another brilliant conversion from Buffelli. Considering I always think of him a bit 50-50. He's either going to do them amazingly or he's just going to start missing everything. This was one of the games where he was just heavily getting those kicks over. Really nice to see. The final 20 minutes then is where you really get to see this waterfall cascade of things going wrong. I don't really know what happened here. There was definitely a weird momentum shift in this game. I still don't think it's quite the same as what we saw against Scotland when Argentina played them, and Scotland just sort of fell apart towards him. But this game had shades of that involved in this. So it all sort of began when Australia got a penalty in the 60th minute down in the Argentina half. They kicked to the corner. They went for that driving maul. Argentina managing to stop it, but had to be stopped illegally. Lifting the leg in the maul, they got another penalty. They managed to defend the rest of the attacks. Australia go back to the corner. They go for the next driving maul, and it drives over the line. Does go down, but the ball is held up. And now the referee came over here and awarded both a penalty try and a yellow card, which I thought was a really big move, and I wasn't too sure about it. I'm going to be interested to know what you guys think. Make sure you do drop it down in the comments. Alemano was the one who ended up getting the yellow card for this. He looked surprised himself that it was even him. Even the referee said it's number 5, and Alemano was number 4. I was quite surprised by this decision because up until then, Australia had been on the offensive, but Argentina had actually defended their try line really well and legally for a good majority of it, getting big turnovers or just holding the ball up. I think this was maybe the second offence we actually saw on the 5-metre line of the whole game. And it was immediately awarded with both a yellow card and a penalty try. I'm not sure if I like that. I would have liked it to have either just been a penalty try for saying that maul was going over, you let that go, or say yellow card, second infringement. But I still feel second infringement 60 minutes into a game, I feel like that's maybe harsh for the yellow card. I think maybe a penalty try would have substantiated that for me. The referee obviously went down a different angle. And after that, it just started unloading, realistically. 62nd to 65th minute was just huge compound penalties. Argentina are kicking Australia back. They immediately give away a penalty for offside. Australia move up. They give away a penalty in the line-out. Australia move up. They give away a penalty in the next maul. They move up again. Australia get another penalty chance because of that maul going down. Hodge kicks it over and they finally take the lead. I think for the first time in this game, actually, all the way in the 7th minute. Australia 27, Argentina 26. They're just beginning to take over that. In the 70th minute, there's another 3 penalties on the 5-metre line. Now this one, no yellow card, even though they were literally in succession, stopping these tries getting over. I don't know why the rules suddenly changed for that part. But eventually it did lead to Fainga getting his own try there. A nice driving maul from the line out, again uncontested from Argentina. They obviously tried to held it up for about 5 or 6 seconds, and eventually you just see it beginning to move away, and Fainga crashes over for a lovely try. Another successful conversion from Reece Hodge. Again, Reece Hodge, I feel like sometimes can be a bit 50-50 with his kicking, but in this game, really, really nice. Takes them to a really nice 8-point lead. In the 75th minute, Argentina have the chance to potentially close this gap up. They get a penalty just before the halfway mark. You think they're probably going to kick up. They've got to try and get back in this, 8 points down. They go for the 3 points, which I thought was the wrong call. I don't know what this was. They hadn't really got out of their own half. the last 10, 15 minutes to this point. I don't know how they think they're going to get back up for another try. Best opportunity, they go for the 3. However, Buffelli does actually miss this one, so they don't manage to take anything away from that. And then the game just goes into bizarreness. We just carry on playing. There's penalties, there's knock-ons, there's advantages played, and we just keep going on and on and on and on. No one's letting this game end. All of the players look exhausted at this point. When finally we get the final score of the game coming in from Len Ikitau in the 86th minute of the game. It was just bizarre to watch this go on for so long. Went in, got the pass off from Hunter Paisami. It was a pretty easy walkover try. By the time they were so close to the line, everyone was so knackered. It was really hard to stop, but a really nice run. They did go and have a look if this was a forward pass. So to be fair, in terms of the... looking at it on the TMO screen, I actually kind of thought it was forward, which was a bit of a surprise. Again, the Sky commentary here in the UK actually said, that's a forward pass, no try, as the referee blew his whistle. So I wrote it down on my notes as no try. Turns out it was a try. And then the commentary team said it was actually Jordan Pataya who scored. And it's not. It's Ikitau. I had a look at the Twitter page of Australia. It is absolutely Len Ikitau who scored that one. So don't know what was going on in terms of the coverage. But that was the final score. Then we go in at full time. Australia 41, Argentina 26. And just looking at where they were at that half time, they just let that slip away from. In that final 20 minutes, Australia really began to find their feet, go through the motions. They felt that momentum shift. They brought on some of the big boys from the bench, people like Taniela Tupou, just making that big ground in that second half, and Argentina just couldn't get it back together. Once they felt it slipping, they were working far too hard to try and regain the ball rather than just playing the game like they were doing the first half, just taking the 3 points, moving themselves up the field, some nice kicks, some nice phase play trying to get together. After that, it just began to fall apart for them. So a real shame for Argentina, but well done to the Wallabies. So final stats then. Possession 51 to Argentina, Australia 49. So apparently Argentina, even though they barely had the ball, gained possession, apparently. I love the stats on the Sky coverage. It's been brilliant. However, turnovers, one of the big ones. 9 turnovers for Argentina, 11 for Australia, and it really began to feel like that in that second half. Australia were just doing far better in terms of that breakdown situation. So, a bit of a shame for Argentina, but it's going to be very interesting to see what both teams bring to the game next week. So hopefully you have enjoyed this one today, guys. Make sure you do drop down in the comments your thoughts on the game. We've also done the match report on the channel for the Springboks versus the All Blacks. That's already up. You can go watch that one. It was a fantastic game. I think it was a much more enjoyable game probably to watch than this one with so many stop-starts, even though less scoring. But sometimes just having momentum and fluidity in the game is so much more enjoyable to watch. But if you have enjoyed this one today, guys, remember to drop this video a like and subscribe to the channel to keep up to date with all of the Rugby Championship news. I hope you all enjoyed today, guys, and I will see you all next time. Bye-bye.